In this video, we are going to take a look at this code snippet to understand hoisting, scope chain, a function inside function, and we'll try to create an execution context diagram in the same way that JavaScript execution creates when they are executing the code. As soon as JavaScript engine sees the code, the first thing it does is to create a global execution context. It goes into the first phase, that is declaration phase. In declaration phase, we are only looking for variable or function declaration. So let's start executing the code. So right now, global execution context will be in declaration phase, and we will be only looking for function or variable declaration. So here we can see a variable declaration called new num that will be initialized with undefined. Moving on to line number 3, we have another variable declaration 4 that will be initialized with undefined. Console.log is a function call. It's neither a variable declaration nor a function declaration. So we'll skip line number 5, moving on to line number 7. And here we have another variable declaration called total. That will be undefined. From line number 9 to line number 16, we have a function declaration called double square. So let's go ahead and define it. So double square is a function. We know that. And that is the difference between a function declaration and a variable declaration in declaration phase. In variable declaration, you don't know the value of variable, but function declaration, you know the value of declaration even in the declaration phase. So as soon as declaration phase is over, we'll move on to the next phase, that is execution phase. So let's start again from line number 1, but this time we are looking for only execution phase. In execution phase, JavaScript engine looks for a value assignment or a function call. So here a value of 20 is assigned to a variable new num. So undefined will be overwritten by the new value, that is 20. Same is the case with line number 3. So undefined will be replaced with a new value, that is 4. And here we have a function execution. I'll go ahead and execute the function here. And when the function is executed, it is looking for a variable total. So now I'll go inside the memory looking for the variable total. I will not find it. And what is the rule of the scope? When you're looking for a variable, you could not find it, you bubble out. So I'll bubble out and look for the variable total. And here we can see, so the variable total has a value of undefined. So in console log, we will see a message undefined. And as soon as that happens, so the function execution context will be deleted and we'll move on to next line. And the next line is line number 7. So here, whatever is getting returned from this function will be assigned to the variable total. And we're calling a function. So we'll go ahead and create a function execution context for double square. So as soon as this function will be executed, this function will go into a declaration phase. In declaration phase, I'm looking for all the declaration. And we can see the first declaration is num because all the parameters are considered to be a variable declaration. So here we'll have a variable declaration num that will be initialized to undefined because we are in declaration mode right now. There is another declaration, that is a random add function. So we'll create random add and we know that it is a function. Similarly, we'll move on to the next variable declaration, that is final, and that will be initialized to undefined. As soon as declaration mode is over, we'll move on to the next phase, that is execution phase. In execution phase, the value that is passed from here will be assigned to the value num. So the value we are passing is 4. Undefined will be replaced with the new value, that is 4. Now we'll skip this line because this is declaration. Here, to assign a value to final, we will have to call this function. So we'll go ahead and create a function execution context. In the function execution context of random add, we have a declaration called a. So I'll be like a is equal to undefined in declaration mode. So now declaration mode is over, we'll move on to execution mode. In execution mode, the value num multiplied by num, so the value of num right now here is 4. So the value of a will be reassigned to 16. So we have to return a plus new num. So when I'm looking for the variable a, first thing I'll do is to go into the memory, I'll look for the value and we will find 16. The same is the case with new num. So when I'm looking for the value new num, I'll go inside the memory, I'll search for new num, I will not be able to find it. So what do you do when you are not able to find a variable you're looking for? You bubble out to the parent. So I'll bubble out to the parent and the parent is double square. And so I'll go into the double square memory and try looking for that variable. Will you find it here? No, because there is no variable declaration named new num here in the memory of double square. So you're not able to find it here. So you'll bubble out again to the next parent and you can see we have the variable new num with a value of 20. And as soon as we come here and we get the value, we'll come back and replace the value of new num with 20. We'll add this value and the return will be 36. That will be assigned to the variable final. As soon as a function returns, the execution context for random add will get deleted. And at last, you just need to return final value from the execution context of double square. So value of final will be returned from here and that will be assigned to the variable total. So it will become 36. So this is how the execution will work. But important thing to notice was when we are using a variable before defining it, it will always have a value of undefined. But in the case of function, you will get the right output because function declaration, even in declaration mode, knows the definition of the function. Because the difference between function and variable declaration in declaration mode is variable gets initialized with the value of undefined, but function knows that it is a function and it carries the whole information. So if I have to write this function in the way of how JavaScript engine will understand, we can write it like this. We'll paste it here. The first thing, that is variable declaration, will be on top, but this will move down. So it will just be declaration. Similarly, a var4 will move on top, but here 4 will be equal to 4. Similarly, var total will move on top and here it will only be total is equal to. So in case of function, the whole of function will move on top. So even if your code was something like this is how your browser will understand your code. And why this happens? Because of the existence of multiple phases through which a JavaScript execution goes through. That is declaration and execution. Just to recap, in declaration mode, we are only looking for variable and function declaration. In execution mode, we are looking for a value assigned to a variable or a function call and a lot of other things. So in this way, we learned about some of the concepts like scope chain, hoisting, multiple phases of execution context, and a lot of other stuff.